Guys, today I'm here to do my November wrap-up. I only read like 7 books, I believe, in November, but it's better than I've been doing, I guess. I didn't really read at all until this last half of the month, but I'm glad I read some of these books on my TBR. None of them I really liked, but I'll explain them to you. So first, on audiobook, I listened to We Crawl Through It by A.S. King. I listened to every A.S. King book. I give them all 2 to 3 stars. I should just stop listening to them, but they're always on my library on the audiobook section, so if I'm bored, I'm like, well, let's listen to it, and this one was, again, okay. It was probably better than, half of them. It was in my top A.S. King books, but I still didn't really like it. I think I gave it 3 stars. It's about 3 main characters. There is a boy who can build a helicopter, and this girl who can see him build a helicopter only on Tuesdays. Every other day the helicopter is invisible, but on Tuesdays she can see it. And then there is another girl who is friends with that main character girl. I need to remember names. I don't remember these names at all, and I don't have the book to look through. She was sexually abused and just wants her friend to recognize it and help her, but she doesn't. And it's just their stories about how they're both all magical realism stories, so it is very weird and doesn't really make sense, but eventually the main character girl and the boy who's building the helicopter run away together, and it just evolves from there. And it was okay, as I said. I wouldn't really recommend it. The only A.S. King book I loved was Please Ignore Vera Diaz, or however you say it. That was the only one I gave 5 stars to. I loved it. All the rest of them I'm just eh. They were weird. It was strange. I'm not really a magical realism person, but I keep trying, so I should probably stop. Then I read Daughter of Deep Silence by Carrie Ryan. I was so excited for this book. I've been wanting to read it forever. I thought it sounded so good. And it was really good at first. It is about this girl named Frances, and she's on a cruise with her family, and everybody on the cruise gets murdered. She sees men come in with guns and kill her mother in front of her, for her father. So she and her best friend, who she made on this cruise named Libby, they escape, they jump out the window, and they survive at sea for 3 days, 4 days, but Libby dies, and Frances is saved by Libby's father. And because all these murders happened, Libby's father is afraid that these men will come after Frances, so he adopts Frances as his own without doing paperwork or anything. He just says oh, I had a cruise with a daughter, so I'll leave one. So she kind of pretends to be Libby, and they apparently looked very similar, so this wasn't going to be a question. He never really saw his family or stuff like that, so no one who would have known Libby before would have known they switched. So I thought that was kind of weird, but he was afraid that they would come after Frances and kill her, how they killed everybody else on the boat, so he adopts her. And there was a senator and his son, and Frances and the senator's son had become boyfriend and girlfriend on this cruise, and they escape as well. So Frances in her head decides it must be a plot that they hired someone to kill everyone, and they on the news were saying oh, a rogue wave happened, the ship everybody drowned because this storm happened, but Frances was no, there's men with guns that killed everyone. But so it's 4 years later, and she comes back to town to try to seek revenge on the senator's son and the senator, and it's a revenge story after that. But so at first it's really good explaining why it's going to happen and all that, but it was not a good revenge story. It was just her really pining over the boy from when she was 14, and it was she was so mad at him, but then when she saw his eyes, she changed, and how could she be mad? And it's just come on, girl. If you wanted to have a revenge story, have a revenge story. It does not need to be a love story and a revenge story together. So that's what brought it down for me. I think I gave it 3 stars after that. I was loving it at first. And after that it was just like, nope, this cannot be redeemed for me. Then I read Bassett in the Night by Sarah Porter. This was in my October Owl Crate box. I'd never heard of it before, but I picked it up because I was looking for a short read. It's like, 200 so pages. This was the weirdest book like I've ever read. Probably one of them. I gave it 2 stars. I do not recommend it. I thought it was really bad. It was just so confusing. It was like a mix of different fairy tales, and it's a retelling of like, it says in here what it's a retelling of. Valissa and the Beautiful. So I never heard of that story, but it was kind of like it was kind of like a retelling of like Cinderella and like other little fairy tales, and it just was very confusing. It didn't really make sense, the whole book. The whole book I was just kind of like, what? Like, I was just so confused. And so I gave it 2 stars because, like, overall, in the end, it was all resolved and I understood, but while reading it, I just was so confused and just like didn't care about anyone, and the main character to me was like super unlikable, kind of like in Daughter of Deep Silence. Frances, the main character, was like very unlikable. I just didn't care about her. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend this one. I enjoyed that it was in the Owl Crate box even though I didn't really like it, but it's, I don't know. I'm glad they like tried something new, and maybe a bunch of people did like it, but I just was not one of them. Then I read The Museum of Intangible Things by Wendy Wonder. This cover is so pretty, but I'm probably going to get rid of this book because it was awful. I gave this one 2 stars. It was again just like really confusing. It was about 2 girls and they were both boring. So boring. But the one girl, I believe, is like bipolar, and they don't address it, but she does really crazy things. Like 1 minute she's herself, and then 1 minute she's like, kind of crazy and all over the place, and the main character like thinks to herself like, wow, maybe she needs help, maybe I should help her, but then they like don't, and they just run away together and have this like road trip that's, insane, and I just didn't find it very enjoyable. I just think they should have like helped the main, I think that girl just needed help, and this book ended kind of in a way that it shouldn't have ended if she had just gotten help and people cared about her, and so I just didn't enjoy it. I don't think it was a very positive book, and I don't think I'd keep it. Next I read The Leveler by Julia Durango, and I'm so sad I didn't love this book because I love virtual reality stories. I loved Ready Player One. There's a book in the Pendragon series called The Reality Bug. It's super good. James Dashner has a series about virtual reality, and it's super good. So I love virtual reality stories. They're my favorite. Oh, there's one called Heir Apparent. That's like the first virtual reality story I probably ever read when I was like 11. That one's by Vivian van de Velde, I think, and that one is so good. Like, virtual reality stories are my favorite, so I was looking forward to this. It's so short, it's like 200 pages, and it was just like, I don't know, I gave it a 2.5, maybe a 3. It's just about a girl who, in this virtual reality, it is called Meep, which is so annoying. Like, why would you name it Meep? Like, I say Meep when it's like, oh no, Meep! Like, something's wrong. So, like, I just kept reading it in, like, an annoying voice in my head. And I was just like, why would you name this place Meep? M-E-E-P? And anyway, so she is a leveler. She gets paid by, like, families and stuff to go into the virtual reality game and get their, like, kids out of it to go back to the real world. And she's, like, really good at, getting people to get out of the game. I don't know. So the creator of Meep's son, like, leaves a suicide note behind and said he's, like, never leaving the Meep, and so they hire her to go in and save him, and they both get, like, stuck in there, and you learn it's, like, a trap of, he wasn't actually going to commit suicide. Somebody, like, kidnapped him and stuck him in the Meep. But it's just not good because it was so short, so everything just happened like so fast, and so it wasn't like exciting of them being stuck in there or anything. And it was a very like insta love story with her and the son, and he had like a horrible name and I can't even remember it. What was his name? Oh. Her name was Nixie, and his name was like Win. I don't know. They were both very annoying. I didn't like their names. And so it was just okay. I think it might be a series, so maybe I'd read the next one from the library because I do want to know what happens in these like virtual reality stories, but it was just not a well executed one. A lot of them you read and you're just like so into it and you're like, oh my god, they're gonna die in it and this one was just like so fast paced, but not in a good way. Like it just, you know, it was like, oh no, we're in danger, and then the next page it was like, oh no, we're saved, and then, you know, they like walked, and then it was like, oh no, we're in danger, and then it was like, oh no, we're saved, like just so fast that you just didn't care. So yeah. If it's in the library, I will probably finish it, but I will not buy more in the series. I read the start of Me and You by Emery Lord. I'd heard of Emery Lord before, but I never read any of her books. I just wanted to pick it up. I didn't really like this. It was just okay to me. It was just any old contemporary. It's about a girl who, in the beginning of summer, her boyfriend drowns. So it's just her trying to cope with that. And by coping with it, she kind of makes lists of things she wants to do this year to make herself a better person. So it's like travel more, you know, be more adventurous, learn to swim. And then it's like date the new boy. And so it's like basically her just trying to like move on from her dating life to date someone else, and it's like this popular new hot guy in town, and he introduces her to his cousin. So then instead it's like her with the cousin, and the cousin's kind of nerdy, and like a quiz bowl team, like they do trivia, and so she joins that, and it's like, you know, her trying to be a better person and evolve herself. But I just thought it was very boring. It was just a very like any other contemporary story, nothing special. Then I read Even When You Lied to Me by Jessica Alcott. This is probably the best book I read this month, but it was still only like a 3 stars, but it was a top maybe 3.5, so it was better than all these other 3 and 2 star books. But again, I was really into this. I read this like only a few days ago, and it's just about a girl who just doesn't think she's special, you know, any old contemporary, and she develops a crush on her new English teacher, but then the thing is, nothing happens. So this book is, she has a crush on him, but nothing happens the whole book. So it's like, okay, usually these like crush stories is something happens maybe like a few months in, and then it's them like dealing with it the rest of the year. This was, she just had a crush on him literally the whole year, the whole book, and it was just like, nothing happened. So like, you know, and then it was like her home life wasn't very good. Like, well, it was, okay, the thing is, now that I'm done with it, she was just kind of a little brat, because like she had nice parents who cared about her, but she just acted like they didn't, and they were like always there for her, but she acted like she loved her dad, but she like hated her mom, even though her mom was like always there for her. But she just like didn't think her mom did a good enough job being her mom, even though her mom was like always there to be her mom. But anyway, and she has a best friend, and her best friend is like beautiful and everyone loves her, so like they're best friends, but she's like jealous of her, and so she's just a really bad friend because she's like always jealous of her best friend. And so it's like an okay story. Like, I was really into it because I wanted something to happen, but then nothing happened until the very end, you know? And then it's just over, so it was like, okay, I read this whole book waiting for something exciting to happen, and it never really did. So I do recommend it. Like, it was a good fast-paced read. I read it in like 2 hours and was really into it, but then I was so disappointed that nothing happened at the same time. So it's good, but it's not. So yeah, guys, those are the books I read this November. What are some books you read this November? Let me know below. And thank you guys so much for watching. Bye, guys.